Maya walked out of the subway station with a tote bag on her shoulder and her phone in her hand. The city air felt sharp that evening, the kind that made people pull their collars up and hurry home. She was not in a hurry. She had promised herself she would show up, even if she stayed quiet, even if she only watched from the edge. A crowd had gathered near the old courthouse building downtown. People held signs. Some chanted. Some stood in small groups and talked in low voices. The protest was about fairness and safety, about how a few officers had treated people in the neighborhood. Maya had listened to those stories for years. She had seen the fear in her neighbors' faces when they talked about traffic stops and late-night knocks on doors. Maya did not come to fight. She came because she believed that being seen mattered. She was 26, with warm brown skin, thoughtful eyes, and thick hair she had worn in long twists since college. She worked at a legal aid office as a junior assistant, the kind of job that paid little but taught a lot. She filed papers, made copies, and listened to people explain their problems. She also studied at night, slowly working through law school applications and practice tests. Her friends teased her for it. They said she lived in a library. Maya did not argue. She had a plan and she protected it. At the protest, she stood behind a row of people and kept her arms crossed, watching. Police officers stood on the other side of the street in a straight line. Their faces looked bored. Their hands rested near their belts like they were waiting for something to happen. A woman with a megaphone spoke about rights. A man next to Maya nodded and whispered, "This is overdue." Maya took a slow breath. She did not like crowds, but she liked this feeling of shared purpose. She pulled her tote bag closer and checked the time. She had to be home early. She worked the next morning. Then a loud sound cracked through the air. It was not a gunshot. It was a metal barricade hitting pavement. Someone had pushed it. The crowd jumped back. A few people yelled. One person threw a plastic bottle that bounced and rolled, harmless but loud. That was all it took. Officers moved forward. Voices rose. People started to step away, but the street was tight and the crowd was dense. Maya felt bodies press in from behind. Her tote bag strap slid off her shoulder. She reached down to fix it, and in that second, an officer grabbed her arm. "Move," he said. Maya turned, surprised. "I'm moving," she said, trying to keep her voice calm. The officer's grip tightened. Another officer came up behind him. "You heard him," the second one said. "Stop resisting." Maya froze, confused. She was not resisting. She was trying to step back, like everyone else. But the officer's words changed the energy. Suddenly, people nearby looked at her like she was the problem. "I'm not resisting," Maya said. "Please, I'm just leaving." The first officer pulled her forward. Her tote bag fell. Papers and pens spilled onto the ground. Maya's heart hammered. She looked down at her things and then back up, trying to understand what was happening. A third officer stepped in and pushed her toward the sidewalk. "You want to get loud," he said, not loud enough for the crowd to hear clearly, but close enough for Maya to feel the threat in the words. Maya's cheeks burned. She wanted to explain. She wanted to ask for a supervisor. She wanted to say she worked in a legal aid office, that she understood the law, that she did not deserve this. But she knew how fast situations could get worse when fear met pride. So she did what she always did when a room filled with danger. She focused on being steady. "Can I pick up my bag?" she asked. The first officer looked at the mess on the ground and laughed like it was funny. "You can pick it up later," he said. "You're coming with us." Maya's mouth went dry. "For what?" "Disorderly," he said, like it was already decided. "You people come out here and think you run the street." Maya heard a man in the crowd shout, "Leave her alone." Another voice said, "She didn't do anything." But the officers were already moving Maya away. The line of police tightened. The crowd shifted. The protest was still there, but Maya suddenly felt alone inside it, like a person behind glass. They led her toward a police van parked near the corner. The door opened. Maya saw the dark interior and felt a cold fear settle under her ribs. Her mind raced through everything she had read and everything she had heard from clients at work. Stay calm. Ask for a lawyer. Do not argue. Remember names. She looked at the officer closest to her. His badge number was partly covered by his jacket. She memorized what she could. She looked at the second officer. His name tag said, Dunn. Maya read it twice, locking it into her memory. Officer Dunn, she said. I want a lawyer. He smirked. Sure you do. Maya was pushed inside the van. The door shut. The sound was heavy, final. She sat on a narrow bench. Another woman was already there, quiet and shaking. The woman avoided Maya's eyes, like she had already decided the safest thing was to disappear. The van drove away. The ride was short but felt long. Maya watched the city pass through a small window. Streetlights smeared into pale streaks. She forced herself to breathe in slow counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Release. When the van stopped, Maya was led into the station. The air inside smelled like stale coffee and disinfectant. Officers walked past like they had places to be. Maya noticed how normal everything looked for them, how routine it was. That scared her more than any shouting would have. They took her to a desk and told her to sit. A man with tired eyes asked her name and date of birth. Maya answered politely. She asked what she was being charged with. The man shrugged and said she would find out. Maya's phone had been taken. Her tote bag was missing. Her hands felt empty without it, like she had been stripped down to the basics of herself. After a while, another officer came and told her to stand. He led her through a hallway to a small room. The room had a chair bolted to the floor and a camera in the corner. Maya's stomach twisted. Sit, the officer said. Maya sat. A female officer walked in carrying a plastic bin. She looked Maya up and down with a cold expression. We're going to process you, she said. Maya nodded. Can you tell me why I'm being processed? I asked for a lawyer. The officer gave a short laugh. You can ask for whatever you want. Right now you're going through intake. Maya swallowed. Okay. The female officer pulled on gloves and began listing instructions like she had memorized them. Empty pockets. Remove jewelry. Maya did what she was told, moving carefully. Then the officer paused and looked at Maya's hair. Maya felt it immediately, the shift. The officer's eyes narrowed like she had spotted something inconvenient. This has to come off, the officer said. Maya blinked. What? Your hair, the officer said, impatient. We don't allow certain styles in holding. It's policy. Maya's breath caught. My hair is not a weapon. It's just hair. Please, I can tie it back. The officer rolled her eyes and stepped out. Maya heard voices in the hallway. A few minutes later, 2 male officers walked in, talking like they were enjoying a private joke. One of them held electric clippers. Maya's skin went cold. No, she said. The word came out before she could stop it. You cannot do that. I haven't been charged with anything. I asked for a lawyer. This is not necessary. One officer grinned. Listen to her, he said to the other. She knows the law. The other officer laughed. They always know the law. Maya stood up, not to fight, but because sitting felt like agreeing. Please, she said. I'm not resisting anything. I'm asking you not to do this. The female officer moved closer. Sit down, she snapped. Maya's voice shook, but she kept it clear. I want to speak to a supervisor. One of the male officers stepped forward, and his body blocked the door like a wall. Supervisor's busy, he said. Sit down. Maya looked toward the camera in the corner. She wanted to believe it mattered. She wanted to believe someone would see what was happening and stop it. But the officers acted like the camera was decoration, like nothing in the room could touch them. Maya sat back down slowly. Her hands clenched against her knees. The clippers turned on with a loud buzz. Maya closed her eyes. She focused on her breathing again. The first pass of the clippers pulled at her twists. Hair began to fall onto her shoulders and lap. The sound filled the room. The officers talked while they worked, like they were cleaning a countertop. One made a comment that made the others laugh. Maya did not respond. She did not give them the reaction they wanted. Inside, she felt a storm. Shame, anger, disbelief. Her hair was part of her identity, part of the care she gave herself when life was hard. Watching it taken felt like being mocked in front of the whole world, even though the room was small. Maya opened her eyes and stared at the wall. She chose a point on the paint where a tiny crack ran downward. She made it her anchor. If she could keep her mind from breaking, she could keep her future from breaking. When it was done, the clippers turned off. The silence that followed was sharp. Maya lifted a hand and touched her head. It felt wrong. Too bare. Too exposed. The officers smiled like they had won something. One of them tossed the clippers back into the bin. "All right," he said. "Now you look like everybody else." Maya looked up at him. Her eyes were wet, but she did not let tears fall. Her voice came out low and steady. "You're going to answer for this," she said. The officer laughed again. "Sure," he said. "Tell it to your lawyer." Maya held his gaze for 1 second longer than he expected. Then she looked away. She knew something important. The future did not belong to people who laughed in rooms like this. The future belonged to people who learned, who documented, who endured, and who refused to disappear. They led her out of the room and into a holding area. The other woman from the van sat there with her head down. Maya sat on a bench and folded her hands in her lap. She replayed the scene in her mind, not to torture herself, but to collect facts. Names. Time. The way the female officer said, "Policy." The way Officer Dunn smirked. The way the clippers sounded. The camera in the corner that witnessed everything. Maya told herself she would not waste this pain. She would use it. Across the hall, she heard officers talking and laughing, as if nothing had happened. Maya stared at the floor and breathed slowly. Outside, the city kept moving. Cars passed. Street lights glowed. People went home and ate dinner and watched TV, unaware that a small room in a station had changed something in a young woman's life. Maya sat still, but inside, a decision took shape with calm strength. This would not end here. At the far end of the hallway, a door opened. An officer called out a name. Maya lifted her head, alert, ready for whatever came next. And somewhere beyond the station walls, the wheels of a much bigger system were already beginning to turn, even if no one in that building could hear it yet. Maya was released the next morning when the desk officer finally admitted there was no solid charge. The paperwork felt rushed, like they wanted her gone before anyone asked questions. A different officer returned her phone and tote bag. Her papers were wrinkled and her pens were missing. Nobody apologized. Nobody explained. Maya stepped outside the station and paused on the sidewalk. The sun was up, bright and careless. People walked by with coffee cups and headphones, living normal lives. Maya felt like she had been dropped into the world after a storm, still shaking inside even though the air looked calm. She walked to a nearby restroom in a public building and looked at herself in the mirror. Her hair was uneven and short in places. Her scalp looked irritated. Her eyes looked older than yesterday. Maya pressed her palms on the sink and took a slow breath. She did not cry. Not yet. She was too focused on holding herself together. Her phone buzzed with missed calls. Her friend Nia had called 7 times. Maya called back. "Where are you?" Nia's voice cracked with fear. "I'm out," Maya said. "I'm okay." "What did they do to you?" Maya hesitated. She did not want to speak the words in a public place. "Can you meet me?" she asked. "Somewhere quiet." Nia arrived 20 minutes later in a small car that smelled like peppermint gum. When Maya got in, Nia turned and saw her head. Her face changed, like a light had shut off inside her. "Oh my God," Nia whispered. Maya stared straight ahead. "Drive," she said softly. They went to Maya's apartment. Nia locked the door behind them and stood there, not sure what to do. Maya placed her tote bag on the table, then sat down slowly, like her body had forgotten how to rest. Nia crouched in front of her. "Tell me everything." Maya spoke in short sentences. The protest. The barricade. The grip on her arm. The van. The small room. The clippers. The laughter. She kept her voice calm, but her hands shook. When she finished, Nia's eyes were filled with tears. "This is not okay," Nia said. "This is not normal." Maya nodded. "I know." Nia wiped her face. "We need to report it. We need to go to the news." Maya thought about cameras and headlines. She thought about strangers arguing online, people picking apart her story. She felt tired just imagining it. "Not yet," Maya said. "First I need it documented the right way." Nia looked at her. "What do you mean?" Maya stood and opened her tote bag. She pulled out a notebook. She had started writing inside the station while she waited. Times. Names. Details. The exact words she remembered. She had also written what she could see on the badges. "I'm going to do this step by step," Maya said. Nia stared at the notebook. "You're serious?" Maya gave a small, controlled smile. "I'm always serious." That afternoon, Maya went to a clinic to get her scalp checked. The nurse was gentle and quiet. She cleaned the irritation and gave Maya a small bottle of ointment. The nurse asked what happened. Maya told her a careful version, just enough for medical notes. The nurse's mouth tightened, and she wrote everything down. When Maya left, she felt a small relief. Paper mattered. Records mattered. The next stop was the legal aid office, even though it was her day off. The building was familiar and warm, with old carpet and buzzing lights. Maya walked into the back room where staff members kept files. Her boss, Mr. Lewis, looked up from his desk and froze. "Maya," he said slowly. "What happened?" Maya closed the door behind her and sat down. She told him the truth. Mr. Lewis listened without interrupting. When she finished, he leaned back and exhaled as if he was trying to hold his anger in. "That is a serious violation," he said. "We're going to handle this carefully." Maya nodded. "I want the complaint filed. I want it formal." Mr. Lewis opened a drawer and pulled out a stack of forms. He explained the process. Internal affairs. Civil rights complaint. Medical documentation. Witness statements if possible. Maya did not flinch. She took notes. Mr. Lewis offered to assign a senior lawyer to help her. Maya agreed. The lawyer's name was Anna. She was in her 30s, sharp and calm, with a voice that carried authority without yelling. Anna met Maya in a small office the next day. She offered tea. Maya did not drink it. Her stomach still felt tight. Anna looked at her scalp and then looked back at Maya. "I'm sorry this happened," Anna said. "But I'm glad you came here quickly. Time matters." Maya slid her notebook across the desk. "I wrote everything down." Anna read it carefully. She asked questions. Maya answered. Anna's face stayed professional, but her eyes showed anger. "We're going to request station footage," Anna said. "We're going to request intake records. We're going to request names of everyone present." Maya's jaw tightened. What if they say the footage is missing? Anna's expression did not change. "Then we document that too. Missing footage is not the end. Sometimes it becomes its own issue." Maya felt a small spark of hope. Not a happy hope. A determined hope. Over the next week, Maya did everything Anna asked. She wrote a formal statement. She visited the protest area again to look for people who might have seen her taken. Nia came with her, scanning faces, asking careful questions. Most people were nervous. Some had been arrested too. But one man remembered Maya's tote bag falling and the officers pulling her away. His name was Sam. He agreed to give a statement. Another woman, Ruth, said she saw Maya pushed into the van. Ruth spoke quietly, like she was afraid to be heard. But she still agreed to sign. Each statement felt like a brick placed in a wall. The wall was not finished, but it was rising. Maya also went to a barbershop run by an older woman named Mrs. Green. Mrs. Green had gentle hands and kind eyes. She did not ask questions at first. She just sat Maya in the chair and looked at her hair with respect. "They did you wrong," Mrs. Green said softly. Maya swallowed. "Can you fix it?" Mrs. Green nodded. "I can make it even. I can make it neat. But I can't erase what they did." Maya stared at her reflection. "I don't need it erased," she said. "I need to keep going." Mrs. Green trimmed and shaped her hair into a clean short style. When Maya left, she felt more like herself. Different, but still herself. At night, Maya lay in bed and struggled to sleep. When she closed her eyes, she heard the clippers again. Sometimes she jolted awake, heart racing. She kept her lamp on. She hated that she needed it, but she refused to shame herself for surviving. One evening, Nia brought over food and sat with Maya in silence for a while. Then Nia asked, "Are you scared?" Maya stared at her plate. "Yes," she admitted. "But I'm more scared of doing nothing." Nia nodded. "What do you want to do now?" Maya looked toward the window. The city lights blinked like distant signals. "I want to become the kind of person who can stop this from happening," she said. Nia blinked. "You already are." Maya shook her head. "Not yet. I'm still an assistant. I'm still someone they think they can silence. I want to stand in a courtroom with power that comes from law, not from force." Nia leaned forward. "Then you will." The case moved slowly at first. The department responded with cold language. They denied wrongdoing. They said the officers followed procedure. They said Maya was uncooperative. They said the style of her hair was against policy. Anna read their response and sighed. "This is expected," she told Maya. "They will protect themselves at the beginning. We keep pushing." Maya asked, "Do we have a chance?" Anna looked at her. "Yes," she said. "But it may take years. Are you ready for that?" Maya did not need to think. Yes. She continued working at the legal aid office. She continued studying at night. She took practice tests and rewrote her personal statement again and again. Sometimes she stared at the page and felt anger rise like heat. But she used it as fuel, not fire. Fuel could be controlled. Months later, Maya got into a law program. The acceptance letter arrived in a plain envelope. She opened it with shaking hands. When she read the words, she sat down and held the paper against her chest. The feeling that rose in her was not joy alone. It was also relief, like she had found a path forward in a fog. Nia cried and hugged her. Mr. Lewis smiled like a proud uncle. Anna nodded with approval. "You'll be good," Anna said. "And you'll be tough in the right way." Maya began law school with a short haircut and a quiet intensity. She sat in the front row. She took notes like her life depended on it. She asked questions that made some professors pause. Not because she tried to show off, but because she wanted clarity. She wanted the law to be sharp in her mind. During her second year, the complaint turned into a wider investigation. Other reports about the same officers began to surface. People who had stayed silent before now felt safer speaking up. Maya's case was not the only one. It became part of a pattern. Anna called Maya one afternoon. "I need you to hear this," Anna said. The oversight board is reopening several incidents. The officers involved in your intake are under review. Maya's throat tightened. What does that mean? It means the door is opening, Anna said. Not fully, but enough to see inside. Maya sat at her desk in the law library, staring at the shelves. Her hands trembled, but her voice stayed steady. What do we do? Anna replied, we stay ready. We stay calm. And we don't let them control the story. That night, Maya walked home under streetlights that painted the sidewalk in pale circles. She felt the weight of the past on her shoulders, but she also felt something else. Momentum. The slow, stubborn movement of truth. She touched her hair as she walked. It had grown a little. Not much, but enough to remind her that time kept moving. Healing did not erase the harm, but it proved she could survive it. Maya looked up at the dark sky and kept walking, knowing the next part of her life was forming, piece by piece, like a case being built with patience. And deep inside, she sensed it. The day would come when those officers would sit in a courtroom and realize that power had limits. They just did not know yet who would be waiting for them at the front of the room. Years passed, but Maya never forgot the small room, the buzzing sound, and the laughter. She did not relive it every day, yet it stayed with her like a quiet reminder. Instead of pulling her back, it pushed her forward. Law school was not easy. Maya worked harder than most students. She woke up early and stayed up late. She read cases again and again until every word made sense. Some classmates treated school like a competition. Maya treated it like preparation. She did not speak often in class, but when she did, people listened. Her questions were clear. Her answers were careful. Professors noticed her focus. They saw discipline, not anger. During breaks, Maya worked internships in courts and legal offices. She observed judges closely. She watched how they spoke, how they listened, how they stayed calm even when emotions ran high. She learned that power did not need volume. It needed control. The complaint against the officers moved slowly, just as Anna had warned. Investigations took time. Hearings were delayed. Reports were written and rewritten. Some days, Maya felt frustration rise in her chest. Other days, she felt nothing at all. Anna stayed in touch. She updated Maya when there was news. The officers were placed on desk duty. One was suspended for unrelated reasons. Another retired early. It is not over, Anna reminded her. But things are shifting. Maya believed her. She had learned patience. After graduating, Maya passed the bar exam on her first attempt. She sat alone in her apartment when she saw her name on the list. She closed her laptop and rested her forehead against the wall. Her hands shook, and this time, she let herself cry. Not from sadness, but from release. Nia came over with food and hugs. Mr. Lewis called to congratulate her. Mrs. Green sent a short message that said she always knew Maya would do something important. Maya began working as a public defender. The job was demanding and often draining. She met people at their worst moments. She listened to fear, regret, and confusion every day. She treated her clients with respect, even when others did not. Some clients noticed her short hair and asked questions. Maya answered honestly but briefly. She did not center herself. She centered the work. Over time, she built a reputation for fairness and preparation. Judges trusted her. Prosecutors respected her. She did not shout. She did not play games. She came ready. Years later, an opportunity opened for a judicial appointment in a regional court. Maya did not apply at first. The idea felt heavy. She knew the responsibility. She knew the scrutiny that would come with it. Anna encouraged her. You are ready, she said. And the system needs people like you. Maya thought about the long nights of studying, the quiet determination, the small decisions that added up. She submitted her application. The process was thorough. Interviews. Background checks. Public records. Maya answered every question honestly. She did not hide her past. She did not dramatize it either. She spoke about law, duty, and fairness. Months later, she received the appointment letter. Maya read it slowly, letting the words settle. She was no longer just practicing law. She was being trusted to uphold it. On her first day as a judge, Maya wore a simple robe and stood in front of a mirror. Her hair was still short, now neatly shaped. She looked at herself and saw someone steady. Someone who had earned this place. The courtroom felt familiar and different at the same time. The bench was higher. The responsibility was heavier. Maya sat down, took a breath, and began. She listened more than she spoke. She treated every person with dignity. Defendants, lawyers, witnesses. Everyone mattered. One morning, a case appeared on her docket that made her pause. The names listed were familiar. Too familiar. It was the reopened case. The officers involved in her arrest and intake years ago were now facing formal charges related to misconduct and abuse of authority. The case had moved through reviews and appeals. Now it had reached her court. Maya read the file carefully. She confirmed there was no conflict under the law. She disclosed her past involvement as required. The review board cleared her to preside, noting her professionalism and distance from the incident. The courtroom filled on the day of the hearing. Lawyers took their places. Observers sat quietly. Reporters waited outside. The officers entered together. They looked older. Their confidence was thinner. When they looked up and saw Maya at the bench, their steps slowed. A hush fell over the room. Maya did not react. She did not stare. She simply acknowledged the room and began the session. Her voice was calm and even. The prosecution presented its case. Records were read. Policies were explained. Witnesses spoke about patterns of behavior. About power used carelessly. The defense argued routine procedure. They said there was no intent to harm. They spoke about stress and judgment calls. Maya listened to everything. She asked questions when needed. Clear questions. Focused questions. Not emotional ones. At no point did she mention herself. The case was not about her story. It was about conduct and responsibility. The officers avoided her eyes. During a short recess, Maya remained seated. She looked at the empty courtroom. She thought about the younger version of herself, sitting on a hard bench in holding, replaying the sound of clippers in her head. She felt no desire for revenge. What she felt was resolve. When court resumed, Maya addressed the room. She spoke about authority and trust. About how the law granted power but also demanded care. About how actions in small rooms mattered just as much as actions in public. Her words were measured and firm. No one interrupted. When the time came for the decision, Maya reviewed the findings clearly. She cited evidence. She cited policy. She cited responsibility. The ruling held the officers accountable under the law. Consequences were assigned according to statute. Training requirements and oversight measures were ordered. The room stayed silent. No one laughed. No one smirked. No one looked bored. Maya ended the session and stood. As she left the bench, she did not look back. Outside the courtroom, reporters asked questions. Maya gave a brief statement. She spoke about fairness and duty. She did not speak about personal pain. She did not need to. That evening, Maya went home and sat quietly. She made tea and watched the city lights from her window. The day felt heavy, but also complete. She knew the ruling would not fix everything. It would not erase harm. But it mattered. It set a standard. It reminded people that power was not untouchable. Nia called later that night. "I saw the news," she said. "How do you feel?" Maya thought for a moment. "Peaceful," she said. "Not because of what happened today, but because I did not let what happened years ago decide who I became. Nia smiled through the phone. You did more than survive. Maya ended the call and touched her hair, now grown enough to curl softly under her fingers. It reminded her that time moved forward whether people noticed or not. She went to bed knowing she would return to the courtroom the next day. New cases. New faces. New responsibilities. The past no longer controlled her. It had shaped her path, but it did not define her limits. Maya had become what she once needed to see. And somewhere, in a system that moved slowly but surely, the message was clear. Silence did not mean nothing happened. Sometimes, silence meant justice had finally arrived.